Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. So this is just an informal notice. This is not yet the start of the meeting. I just wanted to greet everybody a wonderful morning. And while you are getting seated and ready, as a prelude to the opening ceremony, so again, I would like to repeat, this is not yet the official opening, but this is just more of an informal hello. So as a prelude to the opening ceremonies, and for your listening pleasure, we would like to present the ensemble called Musica Typique. They are from the Geneva region, made up of an accordion, a saxophone, and a wind bass. And they will be playing for us a Swiss folk music. So they will be the prelude to the opening. And once they finish with their performance, the opening ceremony will start shortly thereafter. So while you're getting ready, I would like to invite Musica Typique to start playing for us. Thank you very much. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. Music at the peak. May we give them another round of applause, please? You can't hear? They can't hear me. Thank you, everyone. So, I hope you can hear me, but in the meantime, let me just formally start. Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear friends and colleagues. I am Richard Gutierrez from the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention, and I will be guiding you through this opening ceremony. First, let me say welcome. Welcome to all of you to the 5th meeting of the Conference of Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. As we open the meeting today, we will hear remarks from 4 distinguished speakers. As first speaker, let me introduce to you Katrin Schneeberger, State Secretary, Director of the Swiss Federal Office for the Environment, and I would like to invite the State Secretary to give your welcoming remarks at the lectern, please. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Madam President, dear Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, dear Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention, Excellencies, dear colleagues. Welcome to Geneva and welcome to the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention. Mercury is a highly toxic heavy metal with severe effects on human health and the environment. We need to make additional efforts as currently mercury and mercury compounds are still used worldwide, damaging ecosystems and humans. It was 20 years ago, in 2003, that Switzerland and Norway proposed a global, legally binding instrument on mercury. Many years of discussion and hard negotiation followed. 10 years ago, in 2013, the Minamata Convention was adopted. Today, 10 years on, we are here to the 5th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. Congratulations to everyone involved in this journey. We now have 147 parties. What a success. I am pleased that Switzerland has been able, through international partners such as UNIDO and UNITAR, to help many countries to achieve early ratification and to start implementing the Convention. The Convention is helping us to address the impact of mercury. In order to make further progress and to make mercury history, we need to commit ourselves to implement the Convention fully. We must also evaluate our progress and update the Convention as technological progress allows. So this week, we should seize the opportunity to finalize the evaluation framework and the indicators for the Convention. And we should also seize the opportunity to deepen and expand the Convention's work by making amendments to the annexes and deciding on more action. And please don't forget, Minamata is part of a wider picture. 8 weeks ago at ICCM 5, we adopted the global framework on chemicals for a planet free of harm from chemicals and waste. This framework complements other international instruments, including the Minamata Convention and the other chemicals and waste conventions. It will support their implementation and it will make them more visible. The framework will raise the political profile of the whole chemicals and waste cluster. It will also help us to understand that chemicals and waste issues cannot be dealt within a silo. We need joined up holistic solutions to the challenges we face. The Chemicals and Waste Conventions and the new framework need to work as a team, each playing its part, but working closely with the other members of the team. Soon we will have the Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste and Pollution on the team. This panel will ensure that we are better informed about the challenges. It will be able to offer us options and tools to address the challenges. I am happy to have you all here in Geneva, which exemplifies the opportunities for team working. Geneva is the home for the secretariats of the Chemicals and Waste Conventions, as well as of the new global framework. It is also the home of several key organizations, including the WHO, the ILO, and UNEP's Chemicals and Health branch, among others. There is already excellent collaboration in Geneva to address the global pollution crisis. Let's make sure we build on that through our work here this week and also in our work in the other fora. I wish everyone a fruitful Minamata COP5. I hope you enjoy your week and that we can make good progress and achieve good outcomes. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, State Secretary. And next, we welcome a message from Elizabeth Mrema, Deputy Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program. She'll be providing, we have a recorded message for us. May we have it, please? Thank you. All right.
Distinguished delegates and friends, 10 years ago, representatives from around the world came together. They recognized the urgent need to tackle mercury pollution, a toxic threat which knows no borders and which can have devastating consequences for our planet and its people. As we face up to the global challenges of pollution, biodiversity loss, and climate change, this fifth conference of the parties to the Minamata Convention is a powerful example of that collective determination. This is a vibrant and active movement, passionate about change and grounded in strong science. And as it grows, it must continue to fully engage diverse stakeholders, including indigenous peoples, women and youth, and the private sector. We have seen genuine transformation in this regard, achieved by many of you working on transforming artisanal and small-scale gold mining. This has resulted in a safer water, soil, and air, and healthier communities. It shows how positive action in one sector can bring multiple effects, an approach which applies to all the environmental emergencies we face. Our strength builds on as well upon the knowledge and partnership we foster, including the UNEP Global Mercury Partnership that reinforces efforts that make mercury history across diverse and multisectorial actors. Positive action, such as last month's agreement at the International Conference on Chemicals Management held in Bonn. This creates a new platform to manage and reduce risks to human health and the environment from hazardous chemicals and harmful waste, strengthening cooperation between governments, and boosting involvement across the whole of society. This is one of the many important steps towards the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. 21 of the framework's 23 targets show close links between mercury pollution and biodiversity loss. Parties and stakeholders to this convention will be essential in driving the actions needed to meet these targets. Rest assured that UNEP will continue to support you in these efforts. UNEP is proud to host this convention secretariat. This remarkable global coalition is not only growing, but also evolving to meet its changing needs. So delegates, colleagues, you have a hard week of work ahead of you here at COP5. And I know you will not falter as all work together to tackle the triple planetary crisis. Thank you.
For our next speaker, I'm very pleased to introduce Monika Stankiewicz, the Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Monika.
Good day, everyone. Ms. Katrin Schneeberger, State Secretary, Director of the Swiss Federal Office for the Environment, Transport, Energy and Communications, Ms. Claudia-Sorina Dumitru of Romania, President of the 5th Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is really a great honor to welcome all of you to the 5th meeting of the COP of this truly remarkable convention. I appreciate the hard work undertaken by parties and observers since our previous COP4, both at the national level to implement the convention and through your engagement in the intercessional work of the convention. All this tangible work brings us closer to our common goal of protecting people and the planet from mercury pollution. The deadlines for implementation established in the convention are very ambitious, and for a reason. I would like to convey to you a sense of urgency to implement the obligations of the convention, because as we gather here in Geneva, there are still people in different places in the world that are exposed to mercury, and often at high levels. The logic of the convention to eliminate the need for mercury use and take it out of circulation on the market is brilliant. At this COP, you have an opportunity to solidify the work already underway to address mercury from mine to market. Let me highlight, however, that while technology is often a solution to pollution, technology alone is not enough. For the mercury challenge to be effectively addressed, we also need to continue to collaborate and exchange experiences at all levels and to build trust, recognize and act on the linkages with biodiversity and climate change together with other chemicals conventions. We need to deepen our understanding of who are the people and communities vulnerable to mercury exposure and bring their knowledge into our processes, as well as be ambitious regarding mainstreaming gender into the work of our convention, among other things. And we also need finance. We meet as the historic aid replenishment of the Global Environment Facility Trust Fund is underway, and I thank the donors to the GEF replenishment for their recognition of the importance of our mission. Also, I would like to express my gratitude to the donors to the Special Trust Fund of the Convention: Australia, Canada, Japan, Norway, Sweden, and Switzerland, for your generous contributions during the biennium 2022-2023. In particular, let me express my gratitude to Switzerland for your generous support in funding participants from eligible parties to attend the present meeting. And also let me thank parties who have contributed to the specific trust fund, SIP, since 2018. Austria, Denmark, France, Germany, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America. It gives me a great satisfaction that both the work we did for the second review of the financial mechanism and the midterm evaluation of the specific international program, SIP, have found that the SIP truly strengthens the capacity of parties to meet their obligations under the Minamata Convention. However, we must also recognize that the SIP, although it has demonstrated its value, is at this moment constrained by limited resources, and this is of great concern to me. Just as donors to the JEF recognize the urgency of our mission by increasing the Minamata allocation by 30%, we need equally robust replenishment of funds to launch next call for proposals under SIP. I visited the Minamata in Japan a few months ago, a place close to our hearts because of the human and environmental tragedy that occurred there due to mercury decades ago. This visit reminded me of the importance of our work and the urgency of our mission. I'm more convinced than ever that by working together, we can achieve our goal to make mercury history. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam Executive Secretary. And finally, as our last speaker, I'm equally very pleased to introduce Claudia-Sorina Dumitru, President of the 5th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. Madam President.
Thank you very much. State Secretary Schneeberger, Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates. It is a great honor for me to serve as president of this conference. Allow me to convey my heartfelt gratitude to all parties for these tireless efforts in strengthening, preserving, and implementing the convention. I would also like to thank the government of Switzerland for hosting this meeting and the Secretariat for its ongoing assistance and close collaboration in the run-up of COP5. Furthermore, I would like to thank the parties for their remarkable efforts in planning and, in some cases, hosting regional preparatory meetings, as well as for the active involvement of parties and observers in those events. They put us in a good position to make great progress this week. We hope to agree on as many fundamental issues as possible at this COP and to make meaningful efforts towards making mercury history. As COP5 presidents, I would like to encourage all delegates to make the best and the most effective use of the time we have together here in Geneva, to listen to each other, points of view, attempt to understand each other's points of view, and strive to work constructively and with flexibility. 2023 was and continues to be a critical year for chemicals management agreements. Only a few weeks ago, a new global framework on chemicals was agreed, and significant progress was made earlier this year under the BRS Triple Cup. So, now it's our turn to offer the finest possible outcome. In the spirit of Minamata Convention and in recognition of the remarkable progress made by this still young multilateral environmental agreement, I'm convinced that all of you will be able to reach a constructive compromise during the negotiations. This is your cup, and our shared aim is to complete by Friday afternoon, on time, with all proposed decisions gaveled. In so doing, we will together continue to bring the vision and promise of the Minamata Convention to reality throughout the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. As we conclude the ceremonial opening of the 5th Conference of the Parties of the Minamata Convention on Mercury, I would like to invite the guest speakers for a quick photo opportunity at the stage. And while we're taking the photo session, I just wanted to also alert everyone that we will be, after the photo, I would like to invite everyone to watch an anniversary video that has been prepared celebrating the 10th anniversary of the signing of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. So watch out for that. So in the meantime, at the stage, please, Chiara. Thank you very much, everyone. Now the video
I
will be showing.
exist because of each of us. We all have the right to live in a non-toxic environment. Although I am just beginning, I have the power to truly change the world.
We at UNEP are proud to host the Secretariat for this convention, a convention that protects the environment and human health from the pernicious impacts of this dangerous neurotoxin.
Minamata Convention is such a significant global agreement for people, the planet, and fulfillment of Sustainable Development Goals. It is a commitment of now nearly 150 parties and many stakeholders to act, to eliminate use of mercury in daily life and processes, to control its emissions, and also ensure no suffering due to mercury poisoning.
Miners, especially women, are negatively impacted by mercury because they process gold using amalgamation, then burn the amalgam in the open, exposing their families and children to toxic mercury fumes.
E nós estamos sofrendo há quase 6 anos de contaminação os nossos rios e também a poluição dos nossos rios que estamos consumindo juntamente com os peixes e outros animais que cada vez mais contaminados por mercúrios.
Simply put, mercury is a threat to human health and to the health of our planet. That is why the Minamata Convention on Mercury is critical to meet the objectives of the Convention on Biological Diversity and the goals and targets of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework.
In the 10 years since the signing of the Minamata Convention in 2013, I have grown. From my first days in Stockholm, I found my way to share with the world both the threats of mercury and pathways to solutions.
Then we went to Japan, and there we had one of the most incredible experiences in our process. We heard the voices of the Minamata victims. We got to see what the Minamata disease is in our eyes, and we committed to develop an instrument of a global importance that could really provide solutions, and that it should be a never again Minamata disaster. But then we moved to Nairobi, and there we realized that we had to develop an instrument that had to hear the voices of everyone. We got the right mandate in order to organize a final stage of negotiations in Geneva.
Minamata changed the way we think about mercury pollution nowadays. I understood that mercury was a problem for both the environment and the public health, a problem that needed an integrated solution. The Global Environment Facility is a big believer in this kind of synergy. That same philosophy is at the heart of Planet Gold, one of the JEV signature programs. The countries involved in Planet Gold are producing gold that is free of mercury. And the miners are accessing formal markets, supply chains, commercial, financial, and best available technologies.
Mercury-added skin-lightening products need to be highlighted. As challenging as mercury use in artisanal and small-scale gold mining, these toxic products present a serious health risk. While the convention bans their manufacturing trade, our market surveillance confirms that their availability has exploded globally and online.
We have set strict deadlines for banning new mercury mines and the phase out of existing ones. We have amplified the list of products and processes that are no longer to be manufactured, imported or exported. We also establish controls on emissions and releases. But our journey isn't over. There are crucial tasks ahead, and we must remain dedicated to meeting established deadlines on various fronts. We must secure the necessary funds for the convention to be fully implemented in the regions. So beginning now at COP5, we have more ways to engage indigenous people and local communities in order to fulfill the full implementation of the Minamata Convention.
We actually need youth and women engagement and meaningful engagement in policy reforms to amplify our voices on what we see in that sector of gold extraction, but also what are the solutions that will really help to see or to encounter the mercury pollution.
In just 10 years, I have expanded, and I will continue to evolve. My strength lies in each of us.
10 years since the signing of the Minamata Convention. This is definitely a cause for celebration.
In the spirit of the Minamata Convention that lives in each of us, we must keep working together to make mercury history.
As we move forward to make mercury history, I hope to see more countries joining the Minamata Convention in the near future.
I call on all nations and all partners to redouble their efforts at COP5 to protect human health and the environment from mercury pollution and help attain a pollution-free planet.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard important messages from State Secretary Schneeberger, the Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, and the Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention, who put high hopes on our COP5 and the continued common journey to make mercury history. Before we proceed to our first agenda item, I would like to invite two of our distinguished guests representing the Minamata disease victims to say a few words. I now give the floor to our guests from Minamata, Japan, Mr. and Ms. Sato. Please go ahead, you have the floor.
Hello everyone, my name is Hideki Sato.
こんにちは、佐藤末美です。私たちは夫婦で水俣から来ました。2人とも水俣病の被害者です。私たちは胎児性患者と同じ世代で水銀に汚染された魚をたくさん食べて育ちました。
Hello everyone, my name is Suemi Sato. My husband and I come from Minamata. Both are survivors of Minamata disease. We are the same generation of victims who were exposed to mercury in their mother's wombs and grew up eating a lot of contaminated fish.
私は1954年、水俣病が多発した漁村で生まれました。両親と祖母は水俣病患者です。
I was born in 1954 in a fishing village where many people suffered from Minamata disease. My parents and grandmother had Minamata disease.
私にも幼い時から水俣病の症状がありました。手足のカラス曲がり、しびれ、めまい、立ちくらみ、頭痛、体のだるさなど、今もさまざまな症状に苦しめられています。2007年から被害補償を求める裁判を戦っています。
I have also had symptoms of Minamata disease since I was young. I still suffer from a variety of symptoms, including stiffness in my limbs, numbness, dizziness, lightheadedness, headaches, and malaise in my body. I have been fighting lawsuits seeking compensation for my damages since 2007.
そして国が被害地域の健康調査をしないため、被害が発覚して67年が過ぎた今も、 水俣病の症状は全体像が分かっていません。
Furthermore, because the government has not conducted health surveys that covered the polluted areas, the full extent of the damage caused by mercury is still unknown, even 67 years after the disease was discovered.
一旦水銀の被害を受けてしまうと、一生死ぬまでこの病気から逃れることができません。辛い思いを抱え、苦しみながら生きていかなければなりません。世界の人たちにもっと水銀の怖さを知ってほしいです。
Once we are exposed to mercury, we cannot escape this disease for the rest of our life. We must live with pain and sufferings. I want people around the world to know more about the dangers of mercury.
私はカナダの工場排水、またインドネシアの小規模採掘による水銀の被害者に会いました。水銀の被害は今も世界中に進んでいます。
We met the victims of mercury pollution from industrial wastewater in Canada and small-scale gold mining in Indonesia. The damage caused by mercury is still occurring all over the world.
多くの国、地域が条約に参加し、条約の目的達成のために努力してほしいと思います。そしてこの水俣条約を作って本当に良かったと言える日が一日も早く来ることを願っています。ありがとうございました。
I hope that many countries and regions will participate in the convention to make efforts to achieve its goals. I also hope the day will soon come when we can celebrate the success of the Minamata Convention. Thank you.
Thank you. ありがとうございました。
ありがとう。
ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
ありがとうございました。ありがとうございました。
Arigatou gozaimasu, Mr. and Ms. Sato, for these impactful words, which I'm sure will resonate with us during the meeting we have ahead. Now, allow me to welcome you all to the 5th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the rapporteur of this meeting and the Vice President Marie-Claire Elie from France. Allow me to express my sincere appreciations to all parties for continuously working hard in strengthening, safeguarding, and implementing the Convention. And with your kind and full support, I wish for each of you and for all of us here together that this meeting is a productive and successful one. I now open the 5th meeting of the parties of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Before proceeding to item 2, organizational matters, I would like to give the opportunity for statements from the floor for ministers for parties in attendance and from regions. In the interest of time, we will not hear opening statements from individual parties and observers, but parties and observers may submit written statements that will be posted on the COP5 intranet site. Please note that to make good of the use of the time as agreed in the Bureau and communicated to parties, I invite regional statements not to exceed 3 minutes. Now, moving on, I would like to invite His Excellency Minister Roger Barro from Burkina Faso to press your microphone, and then I'm going to give you the floor, Minister Barro. The floor is yours.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Bonjour à tous les délégués. Madame la Présidente de la 5e conférence des parties à la Convention de Minamata sur le mercure, Madame la Secrétaire exécutive de la Convention de Minamata sur le mercure, distingués délégués, Mesdames et Messieurs. C'est un honneur pour moi et c'est avec un réel plaisir que je prends la parole en cette cérémonie d'ouverture de la réunion de la 5e conférence des parties à la Convention de Minamata sur le mercure. C'est le lieu pour moi de vous transmettre les salutations fraternelles du vaillant peuple burkinabé, un peuple qui, à l'instar des autres peuples du Sahel et du monde, fait face à la triple crise planétaire, le changement climatique, la pollution de l'air et la disparition de la biodiversité. Mais un peuple qui fait preuve de résilience et d'engagement face aux défis combinés de la triple crise planétaire et du défi sécuritaire. Un peuple résolu à construire son développement par lui-même et avec le concours de ses amis dans la sincérité et le respect mutuel. Ma délégation et moi-même sommes très reconnaissants au gouvernement de la Suisse pour l'accueil et au secrétariat de la Convention de Minamata pour les dispositifs organisationnels mis en place. Les salutations vont également à l'endroit de toutes les délégations qui prennent part à cette 5e conférence. Mesdames et messieurs, distingués délégués, mon pays, le Burkina Faso, a signé la Convention de Minamata sur le mercure à Kumamoto le 10 octobre 2013 et l'a ratifié le 10 avril 2017. À ce jour, le bilan peut être fait sur la participation du pays à toutes les conférences des parties. L'élection du Burkina Faso comme membre du bureau et vice-président des COP 4 et 5 au compte de la région Afrique, la mise en œuvre du projet Minamata Initial Assessment, l'élaboration d'un plan d'action national pour la réduction, voire l'élimination de l'utilisation du mercure dans le secteur de l'exploitation artisanale de l'or, la mise en œuvre du projet Planet Gold, avec la promotion d'une unité de traitement du minerai d'or sans mercure, l'élaboration de curricula de formation des artisans miniers sur les bonnes pratiques, campagne d'information et de sensibilisation des acteurs, l'inventaire national des dispositifs médicaux contenant du mercure, l'inventaire des lampes fluorescentes, l'obtention d'un accord de financement avec l'assistance de l'OMS et du Programme des Nations Unies pour l'environnement sur l'élimination de l'utilisation des dispositifs médicaux contenant du mercure, la mise en œuvre du projet spécifique international avec le Sénégal et le Togo, la sensibilisation des acteurs sur les dangers liés à l'utilisation de l'amalgame dentaire, le lancement du processus d'élaboration des normes minimales de performance énergétique pour les produits d'éclairage. Mesdames et messieurs distingués délégués, certes, des efforts sont consentis par mon pays et d'autres pays dans la mise en œuvre de la Convention. Cependant, le défi de protéger la santé humaine et l'environnement contre les émissions et les rejets anthropiques de mercure et de composés de mercure demeure. Et plus que jamais, le Burkina Faso intensifiera l'information et la sensibilisation, la mobilisation des financements et la mise en œuvre de projets dans ce sens. Je ne puis terminer mon propos sans adresser mes sincères remerciements et traduire à tous les négociateurs et délégués de la région Afrique depuis la COP 3 en 2019. En effet, depuis 5 ans avec vous, j'ai partagé des moments forts enrichissants pour la mise en œuvre de la Convention de Minamata. Il me plaît également de remercier les délégués des autres régions pour l'esprit de collaboration dont ils ont fait preuve et aux organisations non gouvernementales pour leur assistance soutenue. Ensemble, nous avons obtenu des résultats appréciables. Après une décennie de signature de la mise en œuvre du plus jeune accord multilatéral en matière d'environnement. Mais nous ne saurons s'arrêter en si bon chemin. Cette 5e conférence des parties nous donne l'occasion de continuer d'avancer en examinant et en adoptant les 3 propositions d'amendement introduites par la région Afrique. En tant que ministre de l'Environnement, de l'eau et de l'assainissement du Burkina Faso, je continuerai d'apporter ma contribution et je reste un ambassadeur pour la mise en œuvre de la Convention de Minamata sur le mercure. Ensemble, nous pouvons dire adieu au mercure afin de protéger la santé humaine et l'environnement contre les émissions et les rejets anthropiques de mercure et de composés de mercure. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. And I wish you the best of luck in your new mission. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite speakers who would like to deliver regional statements to press your microphones, and I will call you in order to make your intervention. So, yeah. I would like to invite the statement from Africa region, which will be delivered by Botswana. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Africa region, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the people and government of Switzerland for hosting this meeting and the donors for attendance of our region possible. I would also like to thank the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention for the successful preparation of this meeting. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, the detrimental impacts of mercury on human health and the environment are evident to all of us. The Africa region remains being one of the most negatively affected regions by the use of mercury. Such negative effects emanate from a range of sources, such as illegal trafficking or dumping, illegal trade in mercury, MAPs, ASGMs, mercury waste, among others. Furthermore, health impacts are often undetected, as data is not generated due to limitations in technical capacity, such as effective and sustainable monitoring of affected African populations. The 41 out of the 54 African countries are parties to the Minamata Convention in pursuit of protecting environment and human health. Distinguished delegates, in accordance with the procedures governing the Conference of the Parties, 3 proposed amendments to the Annexes A and B of the Convention that are supported by most countries have been submitted for consideration during this COP. As the region, we wish to utilize this COP5 meeting as an opportunity to advance efforts towards achieving the objective of the Minamata Convention. Distinguished delegates, these amendments are as follows. Annex A, Part 1 of the Convention text relating to fluorescent mercury lighting to be amended to reflect a full phase-out of all remaining categories of lamps at the latest by 2026. Annex A, Part 1 and Part 2 of the Convention text relating to mercury-containing cosmetics to eliminate the mercury threshold in cosmetics by 2025 at the latest, and establish measures to curtail sales, offering of sales, as well as to reinforce and complement existing measures. Annex A, Part 1 and Part 2 of the Convention text relating to dental amalgam, to eliminate the mercury dental amalgam by 2030 at the latest. Our region is ready to make every effort needed to reach consensus on these matters of discussion. We know that our major manufacturing countries and regions are well on their way to phasing out most of these mercury-added products from their domestic markets. We therefore also do not want these inefficient and toxic products. It is time to rid our countries of these products once and for all, to protect our environment and ensure the health and safety of our people. We seek a spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding throughout the discussions at this COP, and look forward to finding solutions for the common good of the planet and the people that call it home. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much for your statement, Africa. Now I would like to invite the statement from Asia Pacific region, which will be delivered by Pakistan. You have the floor.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates and members of the Minamata family. On behalf of Asia Pacific Group, we would like to seize this opportunity to convey our region's heartfelt gratitude to the government of Switzerland for their generous hospitality and excellent facilities they have provided. We also extend our appreciation to the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention for their dedicated work in achieving the Convention's objectives. Madam President, our region firmly believes in the crucial significance of the environment for human beings and recognize the role of environmental conventions in protecting human health and the existence of humanity on this planet. This belief is a fundamental right that is guaranteed by the United Nations Charter, and it is an equal right of the whole nations as a principle and as a purpose to establish this united organization. Achieving these principles require adopting all decisions by consensus to uphold the Convention's integrity and spirit. Consensus ensures equal distribution of decision-making power and creates a strong sense of commitment towards the shared responsibilities and common goals. Madam President, our region would like to reaffirm its commitment to implementing the Convention's requirements, meanwhile considering that any amendment to the Convention brings additional commitments. We emphasize the importance of financial and technical support as well as capacity building and technology transfer, particularly for developing countries. This support aims at enhancing national capacities in mercury management and promoting effective implementation of the Convention. Providing dedicated, adequate, transparent, predictable, and accessible financial mechanisms is imperative for the effective implementation of the Minamata Convention on Mercury in developing countries. It is crucial to acknowledge the unique roles played by each party to the Convention and to consider the differences in their capacities and specific circumstances under the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities of states as set forth in the preamble of the Convention as supported by the majority of our region. The phase-out of mercury-added products and manufacturing processes that use mercury or mercury compounds, as well as the determination of mercury waste threshold, especially in respect of 2C of Article 11, must take into account national circumstances and capabilities of each party. Parties should be allowed to choose the appropriate measures as long as they have measures in place to ensure the environmental sound management of mercury waste. The Asia-Pacific region takes note of the efforts made by the open-ended scientific group and believes that effectiveness evaluation plays a very crucial role in identifying the challenges for the implementation of the Convention. We hope the effectiveness evaluation group will be established immediately and form a comprehensive perspective of views on the way forward. Madam President, environmental protection is a shared responsibility of all humanity. Therefore, we shall collaborate and strengthen our efforts to contribute to the well-being of our future generations by reducing human exposures to mercury. Last but not the least, our region would like to join the global community to celebrate and congratulate the 10th anniversary of the adoption of the Minamata Convention since 2013, particularly a growing family of the Convention in making mercury the history. We look forward to having constructive and fruitful discussions with our distinguished colleagues from other regions. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much for your statement, Asia Pacific. For the next statement, I will now invite Eastern European states to deliver the regional statement. North Macedonia, please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear Madam President, Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to speak to you today on behalf of the Central and Eastern European region at the 5th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. I would like to express our sincere congratulations to Ms. Claudia Dumitru from Romania for her election as the President of COP5 and assure her of our full support and collaboration for her successful mandate. I would also like to acknowledge the outstanding work of the Secretariat in organizing this crucial meeting and thank the hosting country for its warm welcome at this event. The Central and Eastern European region is a diverse and dynamic region with different levels of progress and challenges in implementing the Minamata Convention. Nevertheless, we are fully committed to the implementation of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. We are well aware of the grave threat that mercury poses to human health and the environment, particularly in our region where many sources of mercury pollution exist, such as coal-fired power plants, waste incineration, and industrial processes. We are determined to comply with our obligations under the Convention and to contribute to its effective and efficient cooperation. In this regard, I am delighted to point out that our region has achieved a 100% response rate in submitting the national reports of the Minamata Convention. This shows our strong political will and our readiness to share our progress, challenges, and needs with other parties and stakeholders. We underline the importance of national reports submitted in a timely manner to the Secretariat, which provides an increasingly clear picture of the specific needs of each of the parties and challenges they face. We appreciate the support provided by the Secretariat, the Global Environmental Facility, the United Nations Environment Programme, the World Health Organization, and civil society organizations and other partners in facilitating the reporting success. We look forward to receiving the analysis of these reports by the Secretariat and to learning from the experiences and best practices of other regions. Further, we express our gratitude to donor countries for their contributions to the specific international program as one of the mechanisms which deliver their direct capacity building and technical assistance to developing countries and countries with economies in transition in implementing their obligations under the Convention, and also strongly support the efforts of the governing board members of the specific international program to ensure and mobilize sufficient financial resources needed for launching the 4th round of applications to the CIP. We also welcome the proposals for amendments to Annex A to the Minamata Convention on Mercury, submitted by Botswana and Burkina Faso on behalf of the Africa region regarding cosmetics, fluorescent lighting, and dental amalgam. We commend their initiative and we are ready to engage in constructive discussions on these proposals, taking into account the latest scientific and technical information, as well as the socio-economic implications of our region. Furthermore, we support the work of the group of technical experts on developing the guidance on best available techniques and best environmental practices for controlling emissions and releases of mercury from relevant sources. We believe that this guidance will be a useful tool for assisting parties in implementing Article 9 of the Convention and in achieving significant reductions of mercury pollution. We are ready to adopt them and invite other parties to do the same. Finally, we would like to reiterate our commitment to working together with all parties and stakeholders in a spirit of cooperation and solidarity to make mercury history. We believe that the Minamata Convention on Mercury is a landmark achievement for global environmental governance and powerful instrument for protecting human health and the environment from mercury. We therefore urge the parties to adopt effective decisions at this meeting that will advance the implementation of the Convention and address the emerging issues and gaps. We also encourage more dialogue and partnership among parties, regions, sectors, and stakeholders to foster mutual learning, innovation, and synergies. Finally, we welcome Georgia as new party to the convention in our region and Ukraine that will become full party right after the COP5. We also invite the observing non-parties to join us in this common endeavor and to become parties as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement, Eastern Europe. Now I invite the representatives of Latin America and Caribbean group to deliver the statement. Chile, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora Presidente. Primero que todo, quisiera, a nombre de mi grupo regional, agradecer a la delegación de Guatemala por sus continuos esfuerzos en coordinar las reuniones de GRULAC. También agradecer a los distinguidos representantes de Suiza, país anfitrión de la Quinta Conferencia de las Partes del Convenio de Minamata sobre el mercurio, y a los miembros de la Secretaría y a mis colegas de la mesa por su arduo trabajo en la organización de esta conferencia. Para nuestra región es primordial que esta conferencia adopte un umbral definitivo para los residuos contaminados con mercurio. Esto permitirá a todos los Estados parte cumplir con las obligaciones del convenio en cuanto al manejo de los residuos de mercurio. Muchos países de nuestra región ya están haciendo grandes esfuerzos para el manejo ambientalmente racional de estos residuos, utilizando nuestras normativas nacionales sobre desechos peligrosos. Sin embargo, para aquellos estados que aún no tienen tales herramientas, un umbral de referencia sería invaluable. Además, sería deseable que las partes que son países desarrollados y otros interesados con capacidad de hacerlo, apoyen a los países en desarrollo en la implementación de este convenio, en el fortalecimiento de capacidades, asistencia técnica y transferencia de tecnología en virtud de lo recomendado por el Comité de Aplicación y Cumplimiento, según lo previsto en el artículo 14 del convenio. La exposición al mercurio tiene efectos diferenciados en la salud de las mujeres y las niñas. El empoderamiento de las mujeres y las niñas puede apoyar la creación de políticas que respondan a estos impactos y que identifiquen las principales fuentes de exposición al mercurio. Por lo tanto, agradecemos la elaboración del Plan de Acción de Género y las medidas adoptadas para promover la igualdad de género en la aplicación del convenio. Durante nuestra reunión regional del mes pasado, celebrada consecutivamente con la única reunión de consulta bajo el mandato de la decisión de la COP4 sobre la MAPE, escuchamos testimonios de pueblos indígenas y comunidades locales cuyos medios de vida y salud física y mental se ven amenazados por los efectos del mercurio. Debemos abordar los problemas de salud de estas comunidades, prestando especial atención a personas en situaciones de vulnerabilidad como los niños, niñas y adolescentes y las mujeres en edad fértil, especialmente las embarazadas. Estas cuestiones de salud deben abordarse también desde una perspectiva de género, con especial énfasis en la salud reproductiva, materna y de los adolescentes, en consonancia con la resolución WHA 76.16 de la Asamblea Mundial de la Salud, titulada La salud de los pueblos indígenas. GRULAC reconoce la importancia de los planes de acción de minería artesanal y a pequeña escala de oro, como una herramienta indispensable para la reducción y, cuando sea posible, eliminación del uso del mercurio en las actividades de minería. Por lo anterior, hace un respetuoso llamado a la movilización de recursos creación de capacidades y asistencia técnica a favor de los países en desarrollo que les permita la elaboración y su posterior implementación de estos planes. GRULAC expresa su preocupación en relación al bajo nivel de financiamiento del programa internacional específico, que no ha podido lanzar su cuarta ronda de aplicación. Hasta el momento, solo ha recibido fondos de los países, aunque el programa puede recibir recursos del sector privado, fundaciones, organizaciones intergubernamentales, la academia y otros agentes de la sociedad civil. Nuestra región entiende importante que la Secretaría, en conjunto con la Mesa, puedan desarrollar estrategias de movilización de recursos para que estas fuentes y quizás también aunar esfuerzos junto con la estrategia de este programa especial.
Program SIP. In keeping with Article 21 of the Convention, GRULAC would also like to express its gratitude to the 117 state parties that provided their national reports. We would also like to congratulate the countries of the region whose level of reporting has now reached the level of 100%. Thanks to this information and based on the recommendations of the Compliance Committee, the Conference of the Parties will be in a position to adopt educated decisions based on the most urgent needs of the countries in the region, and in particular the countries who still are in a development status. Thank you very much for your attention and for giving me the floor, Madam Chair.
Muchas gracias por tu declaración, GRULAC.
Thank you very much, GRULAC, for that statement.
European Union and its member state to deliver the statement. Spain, you have the floor.
Señora Presidenta de la Quinta Conferencia de las...
Madam Chair of the Fifth Conference of the Parties of the Minamata Convention, Madam Executive Secretary, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'm honored to speak to you today as the Fifth Conference of the Parties of the Minamata Convention on Mercury on behalf of the European Union as its member states. I am here representing our commitment to face the urgent problem of mercury, as well as its serious implications for human health and for the environment. Before I move forward to our statement, I would also like to express our deep gratitude to Switzerland, our very generous host country. Thank you for the warm welcome as well as for your hospitality. We would also like to praise the Secretariat, the Executive Secretariat for its efforts, and also praise the Executive Secretary and all those who have contributed to the effort of us meeting here. The Minamata Convention bears witness to international cooperation vis-à-vis a problem that knows no borders. The Convention is a powerful instrument for us to fight against mercury pollution, a pollution which is a danger for human health as well as for our environment. We are motivated by the understanding that protecting human health and protecting the environment is not just our duty, but also a responsibility in which we all share. It is a collective undertaking that goes beyond political borders and private interests. In this regard, we have made significant progress since the entry into force of the Convention until the establishment of a governance structure, which is indeed a very reliable one. While we continue to deliberate on critical matters in the context of this fifth conference, we do so with a strong sense of purpose and a sense of commitment through a series of significant commitments. In a spirit of cooperation, we also feel great interest in exploring opportunities with other international agreements concerning the environment, and also recognizing the interconnected nature of mercury contamination or pollution and how this is connected with other crises. I'm referring to the loss of biodiversity and climate change, of course. We are also happy to see the recent successes of the 5th International Conference on the Management of Chemicals. This 5th conference concluded with the adoption of a new global framework for chemical products, and this also with a view to a chemical-free and chemical residues-free planet. This commitment shows the power of international cooperation as well as the will of addressing urgent global problems. By way of conclusion, we would like to reiterate our commitment to guarantee successful results to this 5th Conference of the Parties, and we are here to work as a group, to work collectively, and to deliberate in a constructive manner, and to translate our words into tangible action. Indeed, the well-being of people and the health of our planet depend on our shared commitment here. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, European Union, for your statement. Okay, so the list of speakers is now exhausted, so I think because we do have much work ahead of us for this meeting, we should move on to agenda item 2, organizational matters, starting with item 2A, adoption of the agenda. I call on the Conference of the Parties for consideration of agenda item 2A, adoption of the agenda. So the plenary should have before it document 1, provisional agenda, and document 1/add1/rev1 add noted agenda, and also information document 38, that is scenario note and tentative schedule of work for COP5. The provisional agenda of COP5 has been prepared in agreement with me and takes into account the feedback received from the Bureau. According to Rule 13 of the Rules of Procedure of the Conference of the Parties, the meeting may decide to add, to delete, to defer, or to amend agenda items. However, only items which are considered by the meeting as urgent and important may be added to the agenda. It is possible to discuss issues under agenda item 8, other matters, as time allows. The Conference of the Parties is now entering decision-making mode. This means that I will give the floor only to parties. Does any party wish to propose an amendment to the agenda? Okay, I see no request for the floor. Thank you. So I see no objections and the agenda is adopted. Now that we have all agreed on our agenda, we can move on to agenda item 2B, organization of work. And before inviting the Secretariat to introduce the organization of work to you, I would like to highlight a few points. The tentative schedule of work has been discussed by the Bureau and shared widely with participants, so it will be no surprise that we have a very busy schedule of work before us. In terms of typical daily organization of work, I suggest the Conference of the Parties meet in plenary from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. every day until Friday, 3rd of November, 2023. Each morning from 8 a.m. to 8:45 a.m., the Bureau will meet to, among other things, agree on the order of business of the day. Regional meetings will meet from 9 a.m. to 9:45 every day until Friday. I would like to explain how the meetings will proceed with the adoption of decision in plenary. Concerning items not requiring further discussions, the Conference of the Parties will conclude consideration thereof and adopt related decisions. For matters requiring further discussions, the Conference of the Party may wish, for instance, to establish, as necessary, contact or other groups to consider them further and prepare draft decisions. For some other items, I may request the Secretariat to gather input and prepare an updated draft decision for consideration. It is my intention to try to limit the number of contact groups established during this meeting so we can ensure we have a workable program for the week. It is also my intention to ensure that there is adequate opportunity for the interest of all delegations to be factored into the discussions, with a maximum of 2 contact groups meetings in parallel and only 1 contact group meeting during times when plenary is in session. In relation to budgetary implications, the Conference of the Parties will need to ensure that activities mandated in draft decisions have been considered in the proposed program of work and budget for the biennium 2024-2025. Therefore, the contact group expected to be established for the program of work and budget will be tasked to confirm that the activity included in draft decisions have been taken into account in the program of work and budget for the biennium, and that the decision has now financial implications. The contact group on program of work and budget is to conclude its work on Tuesday evening to allow us to adopt the convention program of work and budget for 2024-2025 on Friday. The Secretariat will now further explain the proposed schedule of work as well as the overall work arrangements. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The documents relevant to organization of work are listed on the screen. Document 1, Add 1, Rev 1, provides the annotations to the provisional agenda. A scenario note, document INF 38, sets out a proposal for arrangements for the conduct of COP5 to assist participants in preparing for the meeting. The tentative COP5 schedule of work, which is reproduced in Annex 2 to the annotated agenda, outlines the suggested schedule of work for the meeting as agreed by the COP5 Bureau. The same schedule is uploaded to the COP5 web section under the tab Schedule in PDF and will be regularly updated interactively on the page. COP5 will meet over 5 days starting today until Friday, the 3rd of November. Every day, the meeting will begin promptly at 10 o'clock. Provision can also be made for work in the evening hours from 1900 to 2200 hours. The President may see the need to adjust the meeting time of the plenary to aid the negotiations. The plenary is conducted in the 6 official languages of the United Nations, and for the first time, the entire plenary will be streamed in English through the Secretariat YouTube channel. The Secretariat will post the order of business as decided by the Bureau at its meeting every morning on the dedicated webpage before the regional group meetings. It will also be projected on the screens at the venue. As is standard practice for all Minamata Convention meetings, the present meeting is organized in a paper-smart manner with all documents available on the convention website shown on the screen. Here you will find all pre-session documents, including all working documents and information documents provided for COP5. You will further find on that page, on the password protected area, with the following 3 tabs. You will find number 1, in-session documents, number 2, contact group documents, number 3, statements and other documents. Under in-session, you will find conference room papers and later in the week, the draft meeting report. Under contact groups, you will find information on contact groups once established, This includes access to all pre-session documents relevant to the work of that contact group. Under Statements and Other, you will find all statements that were forwarded to the Secretariat for publishing. To access these 3 areas of the website for the paperless meeting system, you need to enter the username and password as shown here on the screen and also shown on the back of your badge and on the venue screens before each session. Parties may submit conference room papers by email to the Secretariat at mea-minamata-crp@un.org. CRPs will be posted under the password protected in session section. Regarding interventions, delegations are encouraged to make concise interventions of no more than 2 minutes. To facilitate interpretation, we invite you to send your intervention ahead of delivery in writing to Nadia Omar at nadia.omar@un.org. Only interventions that are made orally are considered part of the proceedings. If parties or observers wish to share their statements and other information, please submit those to the Secretariat at mea-minamata-crp@un.org. Those will be for uploading on the COP5 webpage in the Statements and Other section. Contact groups can share documents such as background information and interim outcomes under the Contact Group section. Contact group co-chairs can request the relevant Secretariat officer for their group to upload such documents. The meetings will be covered by ENB reporting services and the Secretariat's communication team. You will therefore see ENB and Secretariat photographers and videographer for the purpose of reporting or public information activities. The media coverage of the meeting will also be on the Secretariat's social media channels. You will receive a daily newsletter noting the order of business, events of the day, update on activities, photos, and videos. The Secretariat would like to take this opportunity to remind participants of a set of 3 guidelines on the conduct of participants in Minamata Convention meetings. First, guidelines on the use of cameras and audio-video recording devices by participants at meetings of the Conference of the Parties. You can see the reference there and the link. Second, guidelines for the participation of representatives of observers at the meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention is the second link on your screen. And third, the Code of Conduct to prevent harassment, including sexual harassment at UN system events. The Code of Conduct provides clarity on the expected behavior of participants in the meeting. This in turn will help ensure that the meeting proceeds in an orderly manner. The Secretariat is available if you have any questions, and if one of you or any participant has any concern in relation to the conduct of meeting participants, feel free to reach out to me or anyone in the Secretariat. And for reference on the Code of Conduct, you have the link there. Now, a few pointers on taking the floor in plenary. The nameplates and the microphones are configured. Please do not move the nameplates. To ask for the floor, click the press the button to ask for the floor. Your microphone will turn green. That indicates that you are included in the list of speakers. When given the floor to speak by the podium, your microphone will turn red and switch on automatically. At that point, you can speak. Do not press the button a second time until you are finished speaking, as you will otherwise drop from the list of speakers. Once your intervention is done, you can turn off your microphone or the podium will do it for you. The electronic queuing system is controlled by cards inserted into the microphone. The cards identify the specific delegation seated under the flag. Now, the building will be open daily starting at 8 a.m. and is to be cleared by midnight. Therefore, groups meeting during the evenings should finish their work by 10 p.m. Daily subsistence allowance will be distributed today from now onwards and tomorrow during coffee breaks and lunchtime at the Espace Wangari, floor 2. COP5 Knowledge Lab sessions and exhibitions will take place throughout the week. In addition, we have 2 special events, one called Minamata Convention, a decade of global commitment to make Mercury history, commemorating the 10 years since the signing of the convention that takes place today during the lunch period. A second special event will be held tomorrow during the lunch period entitled Mercury and Cosmetics, More Than What Meets the Eye. And it is co-hosted by the Global Environment Facility and the United Nations Environment Program. More information on the various COP5 events is available on the website. Finally, we invite you to help us reduce the environmental impact of COP5. For that, we encourage you to consult our Greening the COP section of the COP5 website at Information for Participants for more information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. These working modalities are in line with the agreement by the Bureau on how we will proceed and have been made available to all parties in advance of the meeting on the website. I now propose that we organize our work accordingly to the approach presented and then in the schedule annexed to the adopted agenda. Is there any objection to this proposal? Seeing none, it's so decided. Excellent. I'm taking also this opportunity to remind delegates of certain procedures that will enhance the flow of communication during the week. First, you know already, but also please remember that we are working in 6 languages. Therefore, it is critical that when you take the floor and speak in any of the 6 languages, to speak slowly and to pause between sentences. I might not be the best example, but just please trust me, this is the way. Okay, I will give the interpreters the opportunity to grasp the essence of what is being said, which allows the meaningful translation. I seek your understanding on this and your cooperation. Second, I will always recognize party delegation first, and when interventions from parties are exhausted, I will give the floor to observers who wish to participate in the discussion. The party status of each delegation is also visible on your badges. The bodies and agencies wishing to take the floor during the meeting need to have observer status in that meeting. The observer status is also visible on your badges. If the body or agency has not been admitted as an observer to the meeting, it can remain present in the room but cannot ask to intervene. I invite any intervention not to exceed 2 minutes, and I beg your indulgence should I need to intervene in the event that your intervention is exceeding this time limit. I made an exception this morning for the regional statements, but I will really ask your support in following this instruction because it's essential to follow the schedule as planned. I would like to note that we have set out work to be in official hours with the possibility of some work outside of plenary as needed on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and including in the evening of those days. I would like to urge all parties to use the set time as effectively as possible and to utilize the time per agenda items per day as efficiently as possible. I would also like to call for your help that as far as possible, we do not exceed time in the evening beyond 10 p.m. in contact groups. We need to take care of our convention, of course, and our national mandates, but we also need to take care of each other to to be healthy, and to be able to work together for a successful outcome. Thank you for listening to me, and now we will proceed with agenda item 2C, election of officers. As you know already, before the conclusions of COP5, we are to elect the COP6 Bureau and the new members of the Implementation and Compliance Committee. Moreover, we are to confirm the 10 members of the governing board of the specific international program. I now invite the Secretariat to introduce agenda item 2C relating to election of officers. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The documents relevant to this agenda item are listed on the screen. On this matter, I would like to recall that, according to the rules of procedure, the COP is to elect the officers that will represent the parties in the next Bureau, which will start office after the closure of this meeting to cover the intersessional period in COP6. Each of the 5 UN regional groups shall be represented at the Bureau by 2 members. According to Rule 22 of the Rules of Procedure, the offices of the President and Rapporteur shall normally be subject to rotation among the UN regional groups. To recall also is that no officer may serve on the Bureau for more than 2 consecutive terms. Paragraph 2 of Rule 22 further states that the Bureau members shall be elected from among the representatives of the parties present at the meeting. The COP is expected to elect the new Bureau members on Thursday. The Bureau requests that nominations for the new Bureau members are submitted to the Secretariat before the end of the session tomorrow afternoon, that is, before the end of the Tuesday afternoon session of plenary. Further, the COP is to elect the members of the Implementation and Compliance Committee and to confirm the membership of the governing board of the specific international program. Kindly be reminded that neither the ICC Rules of Procedure nor the SIP Rules of Procedure require the presence of representatives of parties at the COP for their election or confirmation to the respective bodies. Nominations for these 2 bodies should also be submitted before the close of Tuesday afternoon session. The COP is also expected to elect members of the ICC and SIP Governing Board on Thursday. Please transmit to the Secretariat the names per region for the 3 bodies through the respective regional Bureau members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Now I trust that the procedures for these 3 seats of officer of the Minamata Conventions are clear for all parties. And in order to facilitate the process, may I underline that the names are to be notified by the respective regional Bureau members to the Secretariat by tomorrow. Each of these roles is significant to our convention and to all the parties. I would like to sincerely thank in advance those that are making themselves available for these important tasks. And I wish to express my appreciation especially to the Bureau members for facilitating the process of nominating candidates for election and confirmation. I know you have made good use of regional preparatory meetings to discuss and select the required candidates. Are there any specific questions on the election of the officer of the COP6 Bureau and the ICC and the confirmation of officer to the governing board of SIP? Okay, I see no request for the floor. Thank you very much. And now we will proceed to agenda item 2D, report on credentials. Before inviting the Secretariat to introduce agenda item 2D relating to the report of credentials, I wish to address a warm welcome to the new parties to the convention since COP 4.2. These parties are Algeria, Bangladesh, Belize, Eritrea, Georgia, Malaysia, and Turkey. I will also like to warmly welcome future parties that will become parties after the conclusion of COP5. These parties to be are Kenya, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Ukraine. Welcome to the Minamata Convention family. Therefore, as of the beginning of these meetings, there are 144 parties to the Minamata Convention. And for formality's sake, I would like to invite the Secretariat to recall the approach as agreed by the Bureau on submitting and examining credentials. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Rule 19 of the Rules of Procedure of the Conference of the Parties provides that the credentials of representatives of parties and the names of alternate representatives and advisors must be submitted to the Secretariat, if possible, no later than 24 hours after the opening of the meeting. Credentials must be issued either by the head of state or government or by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, or in the case of a regional economic integration organization, by the competent authority for that organization. Representatives of parties may participate provisionally in the meeting, pending a decision by the Conference of the Parties on their credentials. The Bureau is to submit its report on credentials to plenary on Thursday, 2nd of November, 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. I understand that we have almost all credentials, and so I invite the last parties to submit their credentials by 10 a.m. tomorrow. That is within 24 hours of the opening of the meeting as per rules of procedure. The Bureau will examine the remaining credentials and prepare its report based on the agreed approach and present its report to the meeting on Tuesday, 2nd of November for adoption. I wish to emphasize that credentials not yet submitted must be given in original form to the Secretariat. I invite now Cheryl Eugene Sandromain, Bureau member of Group of Latin America and the Caribbean, to keep the COP abreast of the status of credentials and to present the credentials report of the Bureau on Thursday morning in plenary. Thank you for that. So now let's turn to the agenda item 3, rules of procedure. I would like to invite the Secretariat to introduce the matter pertaining to the adopted rules of procedure. You have the floor, Secretary.
Thank you, Madam President. The document relevant to this agenda item, or the documents, are listed on the screen, namely document 2, as well as the rules of procedure as adopted by the COP at its first meeting in 2017. At its first meeting, by decision MC1/1, the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention adopted its rules of procedure as contained in the annex of that decision, with the exception of the second sentence of paragraph 1 and the third paragraph of Rule 45, which it agreed to maintain in square brackets to indicate that it has not been agreed on and was of no effect. The Conference of the Parties continued its discussion at its subsequent meetings, that is COP2, COP3, and COP4, but no formal decision was taken, and the text of the second sentence of paragraph 1 and the third paragraph of Rule 45 remain enclosed in square brackets. The bracketed text remaining in paragraph 1 relates to the option to take a decision on matters of substance by means of voting should all efforts to reach consensus fail. The bracketed text in paragraph 3 relates to the mechanism used to decide whether a matter before the conference of the parties should be considered a matter of substance or a matter of procedure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. As we were reminded, Rule 45 of the Rules of Procedure contains some bracketed text in its first and third paragraph. With this text remaining in brackets, it remains formally part of the COP's agenda, and the Conference of the Parties will continue to decide on substantive matters by consensus. I suggest that the meeting agree to defer further consideration of the matter to its next meeting. The Conference of the Parties is now entering decision-making mode. Are there any objections from party to this way of proceeding? I see no objection, so it's so decided. Oh, I'm sorry. I see Nigeria. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I think it is high time we take decision on this rule. Every COPS will keep on postponing the decision on the issues. And I think if we continue that way, we will never have a decision. So I think it is right for us to consider it and resolve the issue once and for all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Nigeria, for your interventions. Are there any other views in the room related to this topic on the agenda? If not, I would like to ask Nigeria if there are some concrete proposals on the way forward.
Thank you, Madam President. Our proposal for the way forward is to resolve all the outstanding issues pertaining to the Rule 45, and therefore call for the removal of the brackets in paragraph 1 of Rule 45 to allow for voting when no effort to achieve consensus have been exhausted. In paragraph 3, we also call that for the we support that a simple majority should decide whether a matter is procedural or substantive. And I think this is the right thing to do at this particular moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your reply. What I'm proposing now to you is to consult with other parties in this regard, and then come back to me with a concrete proposal on the way forward. So for this, I will keep this agenda item open to allow you and the other parties to consult. Is it agreeable with you?
Madam President, it is not for me to consult with other parties. I think we are here to discuss. And I think the matter should be totally open to all parties to make their contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigeria. I see Bahrain. Please, you have the floor.
سيدة الرئيس أسعد الله صباحكم بكل خير. I will speak in Arabic. أسعد الله صباحكم بكل خير جميعا، وحيث أنني أتناول الكلمة المرة الأولى فإني أود أن أشكر في البداية سويسرا على حكومة وشعبا على استضافة هذا الاجتماع، وكذلك الشكر إلى سكرتارية مينيماتا على حسن التنظيم وجميع الأوراق التي تم وضعها.
For the excellent organizational work as well as for other documents provided on the meeting e-page in order to facilitate the access for all of the delegations to information about the meeting.
Yeah, I will wait for 1 minute.
Even without the translation, I got your message. So I take note of your comments, and we will continue discussing.
I didn't comment yet. I just welcoming the Secretariat and the country. So I'm waiting for you to have the interpretation in Arabic, because I will deliver my statement in Arabic only. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for this. It was not foreseen to have this translation problem, but it will be solved. So thank you for your remarks. And also thank you, Nigeria, for your comments. We took note of that, and we will come back later on this topic on the agenda. We will not close it as we speak. And now let's turn to the agenda item 4L, financial rules. I would like to invite the Secretariat to introduce the matters pertaining to the adopted financial rules. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and the documents relevant to this agenda item are listed on the screen, and this is document number 2. Excuse me. And this is document number 17, my mistake, document number 17, as well as the financial rules as adopted by the COP at its first meeting in 2017. At its first meeting by decision MC1/10, the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention adopted its financial rules as contained in the annex of that decision, with the exception of some bracketed text, namely, firstly, in paragraph 3E of Rule 5 on contributions, and in the annex to the financial rules on the procedure for the allocation of funding from the Special Trust Fund for facilitating the participation of parties in meetings of the Conference of the Parties. Secondly, paragraph 2 of the annex remained in brackets in its entirety, as some text in the paragraph was further bracketed. Thirdly, there were brackets in paragraph 5 of the annex. At COP1, the Conference of the Parties agreed to maintain these square brackets to indicate that it has not been agreed on and was of no effect. The Conference of the Parties continued its consideration of these brackets at COP2, COP3, and COP4, but no formal decision was taken and the square brackets remain. To note is that the Conference of the Parties has financial rules in place for its functioning, and that of its subsidiary bodies and the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. As we were reminded, Rule 5 and the annex of the financial rules contain bracketed text. As the text remains in brackets, it remains formally part of the COP's agenda. The bracketed text notwithstanding, the conference has functioning rules, financial rules in place. I suggest, therefore, that the meeting agree to defer further consideration of the matter to its next meeting. The Conference of the Parties is now entering decision-making mode. Are there any objections from parties to this way of proceeding? I see no objection. It is so decided. Thank you very much. And this completes the meeting's considerations of agenda item 4L. Now we are ready to begin in earnest the deeper work of COP5 and turn our attention to other items of agenda item 4. So we will start with item 4B, mercury added products and manufacturing processes in which mercury or mercury compounds are used. Amendment to Annexes A and B and consideration of feasibility of mercury-free alternatives for manufacturing processes listed in Annex B. We now begin with this topic, and this agenda item includes two distinct sets of matters for the consideration by the COP. Firstly, COP4 decided to consider at its 5th meeting the following matters. To consider the phase-out dates for Annex A, Part 1, regarding 4 mercury-added products. Also, to further consider adding the production of polyurethane using mercury-containing catalysis to Part 1 of Annex B. And to consider a short report to be prepared by the Secretariat on the technical and economic feasibility of mercury-free alternatives for the 2 processes listed in Annex B, Part 2, that referred to the Conference of the Parties establishing such feasibility. These matters for consideration pursuant to decision MC4/3 are presented in document 4. Secondly, at this meeting, COP is also considered 3 proposals to amend Annex A submitted by Botswana and Burkina Faso on behalf of the Africa region. These proposals are presented in document 5 and its 3 addenda. Since these 2 sets of matters are related with each other, I would like to organize the presentation and discussion on this agenda item in the following way. First, I will invite the Secretariat to introduce document 4 and related information documents. Then, I will invite the Secretariat to provide general introduction of document 5 and its 3 addendums, and will invite proponents to speak on their proposals. And then, I will open the floor for discussion. In this sense, Secretariat, you are invited to introduce the documents related to the matters for consideration pursuant to the decision MC4/3. You have the floor.
Thank you, President. I am introducing document 4, which is listed at the top of the list on the screen. Firstly, COP decided to consider the phase-out dates of 4 mercury-added products, mentioning the proposed phase-out dates in square brackets. Those products are switches and relays, batteries, and 2 categories of linear fluorescent lamps. Secondly, COP decided to consider adding the production of polyurethane using mercury-containing catalysts to Annex B Part 1 as manufacturing processes to be phased out. Thirdly, COP requested the Secretariat to prepare a short report on the technical and economic feasibility of mercury-free alternatives of vinyl chloride monomer production and sodium or potassium methylate and ethylase production for the consideration of COP5. To note is that Annex B Part 2 provides that parties are not to allow the use of those two processes 5 years after the COP has established that mercury-free alternatives have become economically and technically feasible. Document 4 presents technical information that may support the consideration of these three matters. Information was submitted by parties and stakeholders in response to the Executive Secretary's letter to call for information, and the Secretariat reached out to some parties which had reported on manufacturing processes using mercury. Submissions and further technical information are compiled in INF 5. I would also like to introduce a couple of other information documents. INF Document 3 presents information on implementation status of 2020 phase-out deadlines, a global workshop implementing the Minamata Convention obligation on mercury products held in June 2023 with the financial support of the European Union, and other activities to support the implementation of the 2020 phase-out deadline. INF4 Rev 1 presents information on the entry into force of Annex A amended at COP4. The amended Annex A entered into force on 28th of September 2023, except for a number of parties which had declared that amendment will enter into force after their ratification, and one party that notified the depository of its non-acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. As I announced earlier, now I would like us to turn our attention to the matters for consideration of the COP on the basis of the proposals submitted by parties to amend Annex A to the Convention. I invite again the Secretariat to introduce the relevant documents, and after that, I will invite the proponents to speak on their proposals. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, President. Document 5 sets out the proposals to amend Annex A to the Convention received from Botswana and Burkina Faso on behalf of the African region. The annex to the document tabulates the proposed amendments on cosmetics, dental amalgam, and fluorescent lamps. Since the proposal on fluorescent lamps is related to the lamps for which COP4 decided that COP5 would consider the phase-out dates, the proposals are tabulated together with the a list from Decision MC 4/3. The addenda to the document, documents 5 at 1, 2, and 3, present the amendment proposals submitted by Botswana and Burkina Faso on behalf of the Africa region. At 1 is about cosmetics, at 2 is about dental amalgam, and at 3 is about fluorescent lamps. The proposals were communicated to the parties by the Secretariat at least 6 months before the COP. For all of these three addenda, the proposals are set out in Annex 1 and the background information, including information on the availability, technical and economic feasibility, and environmental and health risks and benefits of the mercury-free alternatives, is set out as Annex 2. Annex 3 to Addendum 3 provides a graphical illustration and table to show the original text of Annex A, amendments agreed at COP4, phase-out dates that COP4 decided to consider at COP5, and the new amendment proposal with regard to the fluorescent lamps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. I now give the floor to the representatives of the parties that submitted the amendment proposals. Botswana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, it is once again an honor and privilege for me to take the floor on behalf of the Africa region during this 5th conference of the parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury here in Geneva, Switzerland. The Africa region strongly believes that this COP should be the COP that puts an end to the use of mercury in lighting, skin lightening creams, and dental fillings. To ensure this, we have, as a region, proposed amendments to phase out mercury-containing fluorescent lamps, skin lightening creams, and dental amalgams. We know that the markets are ready, as affordable, superior, and safer alternatives are widely available across all regions, including in developed and developing countries. These phase-outs offer big wins for little risk. In other words, there are low-hanging fruits where the COP can achieve tremendous progress. The parties at the Minamata COP4 made significant strides toward a world of mercury-free products. Delegates were decisive in adopting amendments to phase out 8 additional mercury-added products within just one COP. As quoted directly in the 2022 Minamata Progress Report, having new binding requirements agreed by countries during a single conference of parties is quite an achievement and prove that convention works. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do this again. As highlighted in our opening statement, and in accordance with the procedures governing the Conference of the Parties, the Africa region, represented by 41 parties, has submitted 3 draft amendments to Annex A of the Convention for consideration during this COP. In preparation for this 5th meeting of the parties, we have hosted consultations with partner regions to elaborate on the objective rationale and benefits of these amendments. To address environmental and health hazards facing the world now and make mercury history, the Africa region proposes the following amendments to the Convention. Annex A, Part 1 of the Convention text relating to fluorescent mercury lighting to be amended to reflect a full phase-out of all remaining categories of lamp by latest 2026. Annex A, Part 1 and Part 2 of the Convention text relating to mercury-containing cosmetics to eliminate the mercury threshold in cosmetics by 2025 at latest, and establish measures to curtail sales, offering of sales, as well as to reinforce and complement existing measures. Annex A, Part 1 and Part 2 of the Convention text relating to dental amalgam to eliminate the mercury dental amalgam by 2030 at the latest. On the amalgam amendment proposal, we would like to remind this conference that the average amount of mercury in amalgam is 0.6 grams, far more than any other use in products, and it is placed directly into the mouth. The only way to prevent mercury exposure and pollution from this significant source is to phase out dental amalgam use. The proposed amendment aims to accomplish this goal. On cosmetics, despite the current ban on the manufacture and trade of cosmetics containing mercury levels over 1 parts per million since 2020, the Minamata Convention has not succeeded in protecting a large part of the population. People of color continue to be unfairly exposed on daily basis to highly dangerous cosmetics containing mercury. On the proposal to phase out fluorescent lamps, over 70% of global lighting market has taken action to phase out mercury lighting in their domestic markets. This makes lighting a low-hanging fruit, where a decision to phase out all fluorescent lighting can be made during this COP building on COP4 momentum. The Africa region believes these actions to be vital in achieving the goals of the Convention, in addition to broader international environmental and health objectives. We are ready to make every effort needed to reach consensus on these matters of discussion. We know that major manufacturing countries and regions are well on their way to phasing out most of these mercury-added products for their domestic markets. We make this statement resolutely. We do not want these inefficient and toxic products in our market either. It is time to rid our markets of these products once and for all, and to ensure health and safety of millions. We seek a spirit of cooperation, mutual understanding throughout the discussions at this COP, and look forward to finding solutions for the common good. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Botswana, for this extensive presentation. I now open the floor for reflections on the matters presented under this agenda item. I will give priority in the speakers list to parties. I will take the first intervention from Switzerland, followed by European Union. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First of all, we would like to thank the Secretariat for its work in preparing for this meeting in Geneva and for supporting the substantial intersessional work that has been carried out since the last COP in Bali. We welcome the compilation of information made available by the Secretariat in September on mercury-added products and on the availability and technical and economic feasibility of mercury-free alternatives in the manufacturing and using process. Considering the wide availability on the market of mercury-free catalysts, Switzerland supports adding the production of polyurethane using mercury-containing catalysts to Part 1 of Annex B proposed at COP4. For the Annex A, products considered at COP4 for which the dates are outstanding, Switzerland fully supports their adoption at this COP. In the interest of clarity, efficiency, and coherence in phase-out dates, we believe that the two types of linear fluorescent lamps listed at COP4 could be, or considered at COP4 could be considered together with the amendment proposal for lamps made by the Africa region at this COP. We believe that the transition to less energy-intensive and more sustainable alternatives such as LED will reduce mercury consumption and mercury emissions. In addition, such a transition will also reduce CO2 emissions from electricity generation, which is still largely based on coal and other gray energy on a global scale. Therefore, this measure addresses two issues of global concern at the same time. Furthermore, Switzerland also supports the adoption of a phase-out of dental amalgam by 2030. Switzerland has started to regulate this issue 25 years ago, and dentists have successfully implemented the many mercury-free alternatives available. These are also mentioned in the WHO's 2022 report entitled Prevention and Treatment of Dental Caries with Mercury-Free Products and Minimal Intervention. According to the latest estimates from UNEP, this phase-out would reduce mercury consumption worldwide by around 580 tons a year. And finally, Switzerland also generally supports the Africa region's proposal on cosmetics, such as skin lightening products, in order to eliminate the current significant health risks posed by such products, in particular to pregnant women and other sensitive populations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Switzerland, for your statement. Before moving on, I would just like to gently remind you that I said in my openings that
I will really appreciate if your intervention will be at maximum 2 minutes. It is necessary to have intervention and to support what was discussed, but in the same time, we need to follow our schedule. So I'm very confident from now on, all the other interventions will follow the instructions, and I'm moving on to European Union, followed by Iraq. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the honor to speak on behalf of the European Union and its member states. And we thank the Secretariat for preparing the meeting documents. The EU has actively engaged in the review of Annexes A and B and provided detailed information on a number of products and processes, specifically concerning the availability of technically and economically feasible mercury-free alternatives and taking into account the environmental and health risks and benefits. As the EU and its member states have already phased out or set phase-out dates for all major uses of mercury in products and industrial processes, we stand ready to finalize discussions on mercury-added products, which were included in Annex A at COP4 in Bali by agreeing on ambitious phase-out dates. Furthermore, the EU and its member states thank the African region for the proposed amendments to Annexes A and B. We note the increasing global drive to phase out the use of dental amalgam, cosmetics, and mercury-containing lamps. We can support a majority of the proposals made and strongly hope that the scope of Annex A can be further broadened. The EU and its member states recognize the importance of an ambitious international mercury policy, and in that respect, we look forward to engaging with all parties to discuss all 3 tabled proposals for the amendment of Annexes A and B. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, European Union. I'm giving the floor now to Iraq, followed by United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Iraq, you have the floor.
شكرا جزيلا سيدة الرئيسة.
Thank you very much, President. First of all, I'd like to make sure that you can hear interpretation. Could you confirm that you can hear interpretation? Because if not, I'll speak English. You can hear me. Very well, thank you very much. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to seize on this occasion, since this is the first time that a delegation of my country is taking part physically in a conference of the parties since our accession in 2021. So I'd like to extend my gratitude, first of all, to the host country for their support of the convention and for the excellent organization of this conference, as well as a warm welcome. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the Secretariat of the convention for the efforts they have put in place to prepare this conference and to place documents at our disposal. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank you, that is, congratulate you, Madam President, on your election. I have full confidence in your leadership, and we are convinced that you'll be in a position to ably guide us, guide our work for the benefit of the convention. With regard to the question in hand, Iraq has already forwarded to the Secretariat its preliminary position, a position which contains several elements in respect of the several chapters that are being discussed today. In order to save the time and to follow your guidance, Madam President, I'm going to confine myself to this brief introduction for the products concerned, and I will speak in more detail at a later stage. Today, what is of concern to me is the general progress of implementing the convention as a whole and some specific products. So despite a decade since the start of the convention, there are quite a lot remains to be done in terms of implementing our decisions, and in that respect I'd like to thank the Africa Group, Botswana, who have presented 3 proposed amendments. So on behalf of Iraq, I'd like to thank them to enable us to take part in the contact group and in the general discussion this week in order to make mercury history. In fact, products with added mercury are really dangerous to the environment and human health. It's not only the dental amalgam, it's also waste containing mercury. And the emissions which have a grave effect on public health workers, on patients, etc. Given that dental offices are everywhere, it's very difficult to control the mercury which is available in that market. I thank you very much, Madam President, for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much, Iraq, for your intervention. Now we are moving on to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and on Northern Ireland, followed by Jordan. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and good afternoon to all colleagues. As this is the first time the UK has taken the floor, we would like to thank the Secretariat, the people and the government of Switzerland for the organization of the conference and the warm welcome that has been extended. The United Kingdom thanks the African region for the proposals and the background information they have provided in relation to these. With respect specifically to the proposals on dental amalgam for Part 1 of Annex A, the UK already goes beyond the measures mandated under the Convention and continues to be actively committed to the phase down of dental amalgam in line with our national plans, which are a requirement of our domestic mercury regulation. The data we have indicates the use of amalgam in the UK is declining, and we will continue with that work. However, it is vital for the UK that dental amalgam remains within our treatment armory, as it continues to be the best restorative option for some patients in some circumstances. If dental amalgam were to be phased out without an ideal alternative material for practical use in every clinical scenario, the oral health of patients will be disadvantaged, and their right to appropriate health care will not be met. In our view, dental professionals need to have access to the appropriate filling materials to provide the best treatment options for all patients that they can afford. On the proposals on fluorescent lighting and cosmetics, we are broadly supportive by the proposals brought forward by the African region. We look forward to engaging with all colleagues on these issues during the conference. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, UK, for your statement. I'm now giving the floor to Jordan, followed by Norway. Jordan, you have the floor.
Shukran.
Thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, allow me to express my congratulations to you on having been elected to this important office. Colleagues, good morning to you all. Well, first of all, we would like to thank Switzerland for their excellent reception, for their hosting of this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan would like to see this convention, this environmental convention, to become one of the lead conventions and an example to follow in protecting the environment and human health. The preparatory process, as has been stressed, is organized in such a way that we want to make it a happy convention. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, we have managed to score some successes as the convention. As we learned yesterday from the summary by the Secretariat, more than 98 member states have submitted letters of verification of this convention, which augurs well for the future. And in that sense, so that the convention becomes efficient among other conventions, we need to pay attention to matters requiring decision. Obviously, we have the African proposal that has been read out by a colleague from Botswana, which we support. Well, what is involved here? First of all, to reduce the use of the dental amalgam. There is mercury in dental amalgam, to phase out mercury in cosmetics and cosmetic products in order to protect human health and the environment. Thirdly, to phase out mercury in lighting equipment containing mercury. And fourthly, to proceed from science to action. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, it's very important to remind you that the convention proposes to introduce thresholds on the content of mercury in children's toys and recyclable plastics. All of the production of plastic, recyclable plastic, should not contain any of this dangerous product, mercury. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jordan, for your statement. I'm now giving the floor to Norway, followed by Indonesia. Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The process of reviewing Annexes A and B to the Convention is important to further reduce and minimize emissions from mercury-added products and processes. Norway shares the concerns raised by the African region in their proposed amendments to Annex A, Part 1 and Part 2. Mercury-added products, whether it's dental amalgam, lamps, or cosmetics such as skin lightening products, represent remaining sources of mercury that impact human health and the environment. We support all of the amendment proposals and look forward to engaging in more detailed discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norway. I'm now moving on to Indonesia, followed by Kuwait. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. At the outset, allow me on behalf of the government of the Republic of Indonesia, my accompanying delegation, as well as on my own behalf, to extend our sincere gratitude to the Secretariat and all supporting parties for the excellent arrangement made for this meeting, and to also express my great pleasure to be able to meet all distinguished delegates, the parties of Minamata Convention, right here in Geneva, after our last successful COP4 in Bali, Indonesia. We thank the African region for the proposal from the African region to amend Annex A of the Minamata Convention. While we support the proposal on amalgam, we would like to give comment on the two other issues. First, cosmetic. Currently, Indonesia views that the threshold 1 ppm could be maintained. As we all are fully aware that mercury contained in cosmetic can be categorized into two. First as an ingredient that is deliberately added to a product, and a second, mercury as a trace element. In this case, Indonesia has prohibited the use of mercury in cosmetics in accordance with the National Drug and Food Control Agency Regulation 2022 concerning amendment to the National Drug and Food Control Agency Regulation number 23 to 2019. And meanwhile, for mercury as a trace element in cosmetics, Indonesia has its own regulation in place regarding limits on mercury contamination in cosmetics, the amount of which is no more than 1 milligram per kilogram or 1 milligram per liter, 1 ppm. This limit is in accordance with the ASEAN guidelines on limits of contaminants for cosmetics. As we believe the different international cooperation platform shall work in synergy and complementing, Indonesia proposes to maintain the amount of 1 ppm of mercury as a trace element as stated in the Annex A. We view that at this moment, it is more important for implementation of the convention instead of making a new target. And for lamp product concern, Indonesia is open for dialogue with proposal for adding several lighting products containing mercury in the form of CFLs and LFLs as part of the amendment proposal of Annex A of the Minamata Convention by the African region that were pending discussion at the last COP. In this regard, Indonesia is pleased to share that it has regulation regarding the National Action Plan for Reduction and Elimination of Mercury, which includes the manufacturing priority sector that focuses on reducing the use of mercury in the lighting and battery industry until 2030. For the specific purpose of reducing mercury in the lighting industry, Indonesia has roadmap on high efficiency lighting development for Indonesia. The roadmap includes CFL and LFL production plans, estimation with decreasing utilization levels toward 2030. However, the use of a number of CFL and LFL lamps in Indonesia is remaining there. Therefore, in line with existing regulation and roadmap, Indonesia will propose that the phase-out year for all types of CFL and LFL that are being discussed in this meeting, as well as the proposed Annex A Minamata amendment, could be set by 2030. We also believe that the phase-out of mercury-added products and manufacturing processes that use mercury must take into account national circumstances and capabilities of each party. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Indonesia. Before moving on, I would like to announce you that we have 16 parties already asking for the floor. And I'm not talking about observers, of course. And in this regard, I think it's very important to keep your intervention limited at 2 minutes, because for sure we're not going to make it until the lunch break. And everybody waits for the lunch break, and there are some events during the lunch break that you need to attend because they are extremely interesting and useful. So with this in mind, I'm going to move on to Kuwait, followed by South Africa. Please, you have the floor.
Madam President, the Secretariat.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu jami'an.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the State of Kuwait, we should like to extend our sincere gratitude and thanks to the government of Switzerland. We congratulate the Secretariat on organizing this important conference. We hope that everyone will be able to participate in this conference. Kuwait had signed the convention and is implementing its provisions in view of its importance for the preservation of human health and the environment. We should also like to inform you that the State of Kuwait had also stopped the import and manufacturing of any beauty product that contains any trace of mercury. Kuwait also does not allow the importation nor the exportation of any dental amalgam. And the Ministry of Health in Kuwait had taken a formal decision in this respect. The state of Kuwait affirms and supports the banning of all fluorescent lights. The state of Kuwait is currently working actively to ban the manufacturing and the importation since 2019 of these lighting fluorescents. As for the use of polyurethane, the state of Kuwait stopped using it as an incentive element in industry as a catalyst since 2019. In conclusion, we should like to thank the African group for their proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kuwait. We now move on to giving the floor to South Africa, followed by Gabon. After that, I would like to announce you that I will soon close the list of speakers from parties. So please, South Africa and then Gabon.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And as this is our first time we take the floor, we would like to thank the government of Switzerland for welcoming us to their country, and also congratulate and thank the Secretariat for the good organization of this meeting. Madam President, I would like to also indicate that South Africa is the only country in the whole world that has won the Rugby World Cup 4 times. Let me indicate, Madam President, that South Africa has developed a comprehensive MIA and the NIP, which was adopted by our cabinet. Furthermore, South Africa has developed mercury regulation consultation and are yet to come into force to domesticate the Minamata Convention, particularly looking at mercury-added products. The Minamata Convention entered into force later than we all anticipated, and as such, the dates set for phasing out the MAPs have passed, and most countries, including this delegation, are yet to fully transition to safer alternatives due to limited resources. We have 13 land and sea ports and 3 international airports through which trade of products is allowed. To facilitate implementation of the relevant chemicals and waste conventions, including the Minamata Convention, the South African government has purchased 8 XRF scanners to assist in border management, the border management agency's officials to detect mercury-added products should they be coming through to our borders. This delegation supports the statement made by Botswana on behalf of the African region in relation to phasing out cosmetics and fluorescent lighting, and are looking forward to discussions and decision at this COP. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, South Africa. I'm now going to announce you that the last speaker on my list is Burundi, and with this I'm closing the list of speakers. And with this in mind, I'm going to move on to Gabon, followed by Pakistan. So Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, it's a great honor and privilege for me to make the voice of Gabon heard at this COP5 of the Minamata Convention on mercury. Well, first of all, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the Swiss government for the efforts put in place to organize this meeting. In the same way, I'd like to thank the fraternal people of Switzerland for their warm reception and friendliness accorded to our delegation. Madam President, there's no need to remind you that the dangerous effects of mercury on human health and the environment are obvious to see for all. This is why our country engaged at a very early stage in becoming one of the first state parties to the Convention on Mercury, which aims to phase out dangerous emissions and waste containing that dangerous product. Our country, since it gained independence, has made environment the cornerstone of its policies. That commitment has been reiterated by the adoption of a new regulation on the effective implementation of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. So I'd like to use this opportunity to inform the Conference of the Party that we have banned the use of the dental amalgam for treating tooth decay in our country. In the same way, the import, export, trade, and the use of cosmetic products used for skin lightening, which contain mercury, and as well as the use of medical equipment containing mercury, have been officially banned since the 24th of October 2023. We'd also like to use this occasion to thank the WHO, the United Nations Environment Programme, GEF, and the Biodiversity Research Institute, which have been helping Gabon in many ways to attain our results. We have forwarded to the Secretariat the recently adopted text. Nevertheless, despite this progress in the implementation of the Minamata Convention in Gabon, we continue to face continuing challenges, particularly when it comes to artisanal gold mining, the management of waste, and in terms of the need of capacity building to use the latest scientific data. Our government has embarked on ways to offer our population ways of legal redress. Our country, in cooperation with the Nature Conservancy, are setting up an analytical laboratory for measuring mercury content in various products, which is why we would also like to express our gratitude to this partner. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, to make mercury history requires from all of us sustainable financing and efforts in order to help developing countries to meet their commitments under the Convention. And so our delegation would like to express its availability to engage in cooperation with all of the colleagues represented here in order to successfully conclude our work, particularly in order to further explore the amendments put forward by the Africa group.
It's mandatory to keep within 2 minutes, because not even the 16 parties on the list will have a chance to speak before lunch break. So please bear with me and with your schedule, of course. So now I'm going to give the floor to Pakistan, followed by India. 2 minutes, right? Please. I don't want to interrupt anybody, but I will do it if it's necessary.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be super brief as per your advice. Pakistan would like to appreciate this Secretariat for a short report on the technical and economic feasibility of mercury-free alternatives for the production of vinyl chloride monomer and sodium or potassium methylate or ethylate. Pakistan would like to continue the discussion on decision MC 4/3 regarding phase-out dates of mercury-added products in Part 1 of Annexure A to the Convention. Pakistan would also like to support and discuss the African proposals regarding mercury-added cosmetics, including skin lightening soaps and creams, mercury dental amalgam, and fluorescent lighting. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Pakistan. Thank you for understanding. I'm now giving the floor to India, followed by Australia. So India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. as India is taking floor for the first time, I would like to thank Government of Switzerland and for hosting the 5th meeting of Conference of Parties in Geneva and extending warm hospitality. I would also like to thank you as well as Secretariat of Minamata Convention for doing the excellent work during the intersessional period and for the preparation for organizing this in-person COP meeting. India has always been committed to the implementation of convention. It is important to protect human health and environment from the adverse effect of mercury pollution. In regard to the present proposals regarding amendments to the Annexure A, Part 1 and Part 2, and in Annexure B, it is important to take into account national circumstances and capabilities. There are a few proposals that have come as a spillover from COP4, and there are few new proposals. In respect of lighting products, we are in general agreement to the phase out of mercury-added lighting products as proposed by Africa Union. In case of a few items, deliberations regarding the phase-out dates based on the special circumstances may be needed. In respect of use of mercury in cosmetics below threshold, it is important to address the issue of traces and contaminants. For the phase-out of dental amalgam, availability of affordable alternatives as well as safety aspects needs to be looked into before taking any decision in this regard. Therefore, these proposals need to be further deliberated upon to understand each party's perspective. This would also help build consensus on such proposals. This may be deliberated in a contact group for arriving at the pragmatic decisions. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, India. I'm now giving the floor to Australia, followed by Saudi Arabia. Australia, please.
Thank you, Madam President. As this is the first time that Australia is taking the floor, we would like to thank the Government of Switzerland for hosting us in your beautiful country and to the Secretariat for all of your work in preparing us for this meeting. Australia considers Article 4 of particular importance for the Pacific region in our efforts to protect our health, livelihoods and environment from mercury pollution. We would like to thank the Africa region for your initiative and leadership to further enhance efforts under the Convention on Dental Amalgam, Lighting and Cosmetics. We very much welcome the proposed amendments and look forward to the opportunity to discuss these proposals further at COP5. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Australia. Now I'm giving the floor to Saudi Arabia, followed by Antigua and Barbuda. Saudi Arabia, please, you have the floor.
Barbuda. Thank you.
خالص الشكر والتقدير لدولة سويسرا على استضافتها لمؤتمر الأطفال.
This is the first time that we take the floor, and we would like to thank the State of Switzerland for their hospitality and the Secretariat for their excellent preparation. We also congratulate you, Madam President, upon your election to preside over this conference. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is keenly committed to the importance of the environment on human rights and the environment. This is a right guaranteed by the United Nations and international conventions. This is something that will not be realized without everybody agreeing on the same decisions. This is a common responsibility that falls upon everyone, and it is important to the destiny of the human race. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as an important and vibrant party in the convention, has taken valuable decisions in the implementation of the conventions, such as the importation and production of mercury and A and B annexes. We have commenced the gradual phasing out of dental amalgam, and we hope to rid ourselves of all dental amalgams in the near future. And as for the proposals by the Africa region on beauty products, on cosmetics, we think we would like to tell them that we have rules that totally ban the use of mercury, including the traces, unless those that can be removed scientifically. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saudi Arabia. We are now moving on to giving the floor to Antigua and Barbuda, followed by Tonga. Antigua and Barbuda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. As this is the first instance of taking the floor, permit me to take this opportunity to congratulate you on your presidency and to thank our Swiss hosts for their usual hospitality. Madam President, the government of Antigua and Barbuda adds its support to the proposal of the African region to amend Annex A, Parts 1 and 2, as it relates to cosmetics. Recent studies within the Caribbean region have highlighted the high levels of mercury contained within such products and the significant risk so associated. Given the high degree of availability and the ubiquity of such products, we strongly support the restrictions of such products on the open market. Further, the government of Antigua and Barbuda pledges to take more stringent action nationally to protect its citizens from the harmful effects of mercury. We pledge our further support to the discussions on the amendment of this annex as we strive to achieve our goal of protecting human health and the environment. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Antigua and Barbuda. I'm now giving the floor to Tonga, followed by China. Tonga, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to thank the government of Switzerland for hosting COP5 and for the Secretariat for organizing this meeting. Tonga acknowledges the persistent challenges posed by the use of mercury in cosmetics, particularly in skin lightening products. We commend the rigorous investigative efforts of entities such as CNN and applaud the new Global Environment Facility project, which targets the elimination of mercury in skin lightening products. We understand the grave health risk associated with these products. The use of mercury in skin lightening products not only threatens individual health, but also underscores a societal issue rooted in colorism. This threat, especially to vulnerable populations such as pregnant women, cannot be understated. Given the potential for mercury absorption through multiple pathways, including through the skin and inhalation, it is imperative to address this risk head-on. The proposal to eliminate the 1 ppm mercury threshold aligns with practices from many countries that maintain no threshold. Indeed, it's worth noting that EU cosmetic regulation, which forbids mercury in cosmetic products, reinforcing the feasibility of this proposal. Such a change would empower parties, especially those with limited resources, to efficiently screen for mercury-added SLPs in market using handheld devices. Further, the continued availability of mercury-added SLPs, both in local markets and online demands additional measures. We are encouraged by the example set forth by the countries such as South Africa, Nigeria, and India in discouraging the advertisement and promotion of toxic SLPs. Tonga supports this enhanced step, which include public advisories, licensing, and product ingredient approvals for cosmetic manufacturing facility, as well as the proactive engagement of online platforms in ensuring product safety. Moreover, we emphasize the importance of inter-ministerial coordination at national level and extend the sentiment to include bilateral and regional cooperation essential to address the transboundary trade of these harmful products. In conclusion, Tonga stands together with the African region in advocating for these amendments. We believe these changes will pave the way for a safer, more inclusive world where beauty standards are not dictated by harmful products and where individuals are safeguarded from the harmful effects of toxic substances. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Tonga. I'm now giving the floor to China, followed by United States of America.
Thank you, Madam President. Since this is the first time for us to take the floor, we would like to thank the Swiss federal government and the Secretariat of the Convention for their hard work in convening the meeting and for the documents prepared. And we also appreciate the flexibility shown by all parties on the additions to Annex A during COP4. We appreciate the African region's efforts, China has done a lot of work for the control and reduction of mercury use, including measures to develop alternative materials, public education, etc. We note that 13 countries and territories have registered specific exemptions for the first mercury-added products listed in Part A of Annex A, and almost every product has an exemption, considering that the convention has been in force for 6 years and mandatory implementation is still being carried with difficulties for developing countries. So this has exerted pressure on the parties to comply with the convention. So practical factors should be considered to steadily promote the convention. At the same time, taking into account the procedural period required, we suggest the phase-out time limit should be operable, leaving sufficient time for this work. Since the entry into force of the convention, China carried out a series of efforts to promote the reduction of the mercury in the PVC industry, achieved the complete replacement of high mercury catalyst with low mercury catalyst, and completed the phased implementation targets. China has also actively promoted the development and application of the alternative technologies, but the available data show that there are still many bottlenecks in this aspect. So the technical feasibility and economic feasibility and environmental health benefits required by the convention, there is still a lack of data support for the industrial operation of mercury-free catalysts throughout the life cycle. We hope to participate in the follow-up discussions and jointly explore the feasible alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, China. So the situation is like this. We have a lot of parties still on the list. We have a couple of seconds before lunch break. But since I want to show you that I'm with a good heart, I will allow 3 more parties as announced. So we will go to United States, then Argentina will follow, and we will close the list with Iran. But after the lunch break, we will continue the statements, and of course, we will take also the non-parties. So, as I said, I repeat, US now, followed by Argentina, and then Iran. So, US, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The United States would also like to thank the Secretariat, the President, and the Government of Switzerland for facilitation of this meeting. The United States appreciates the proposed amendments to Annex A from our African colleagues and the work that went into preparing these proposals. We look forward to discussing all of the mercury-added products that will be under consideration this week. We are generally supportive of many of the draft amendments and look forward to working with other delegations and stakeholders to achieve an ambitious outcome. We also note that several of the lighting proposals provide an additional opportunity to secure climate benefits that may be associated with the transition to mercury-free and more energy-efficient alternatives, particularly in this lighting sector. We are eager to consider and promote such opportunities and urge other parties to consider how our actions here can advance progress on addressing the climate crisis while also serving the objectives of this convention. In the course of our work, the United States is interested in considering not just what products can be appropriately added to Annex A to further the existing efforts of the parties to reduce the global mercury pool, but also to ensure that the structure and the framing of the proposed amendments results in the maximum number of parties being able to take effective, efficient, and transparent measures to implement any amendments that may be adopted by this COP. We would also like to support the Swiss intervention to consider all of the lighting amendments together, be they from COP4 or COP5. I would also like to note that the United States and other delegations will be submitting a CRP with respect to vinyl chloride monomer shortly. We hope that there can be sufficient time to discuss the interests of all parties and stakeholders in a contact group this week, where we look forward to hearing the range of views on the proposed amendments and finding a way to promote and support the objective of this convention. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much, United States of America. Now we are moving on to Argentina, followed by Iran. Argentina, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We would like to thank Switzerland and the Secretariat and the Board for their intercessional work and for organizing this conference of the parties. First of all, we would like to thank the African region for the amendment proposals in Annexes A and B. As many other countries, Argentina has undertaken and is still undertaking major efforts in order to restrict trade in any added mercury products and anything related to them. At present, we are able to provide general support to the proposals that we have heard, and in particular, those that refer to cosmetics and to the fluorescent lighting. In that regard, Argentina would like to express that we will constructively participate in the contact group on these subjects in order to reach an agreement that can allow progress in the objectives of the convention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Argentina. So now for the last speaker on the list before breaking for lunch, I'm giving the floor to Iran. And for your information, Bahrain, you will be the first one speaking when we adjourn. So Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Since this is the first time that Iran takes the floor, our delegation would like to thank the government of Switzerland for its kind hospitality and extend our sincere thanks to the solid efforts of the Secretariat for organizing COP5. Iran appreciates the efforts by proponent parties and regions for their proposals to amend Annexes A and B for the Convention. So far, in spite of challenges, we all together made significant efforts to implement the provisions of the Convention. Nevertheless, we should bear in our mind the fact that not all the parties are on the same condition to adapt to the new amendments and accordingly undertake further obligations. We believe that any amendment should consider the socioeconomic circumstances of developing countries. We are of the firm belief that amendments to the annexes of the Convention and subsequently effective implementation of the Convention is contingent upon technology transfer, capacity building, sustainable, transparent, and accessible financial resources, as well as feasibility and affordability of the required measures. Meanwhile, we should stress that in addition to general challenges, same as other developing countries, to meet the obligations of the Convention, Iran is dealing with an individual and specific challenge that I would like to draw your attention to it in the area of capacity building and technology transfer. Due to illegal unilateral sanctions, foreign companies that provide alternatives are hesitant to work with Iranian counterparts, and this issue is undermining our efforts to access mercury-free alternatives, especially on the case of dental amalgam, and makes the process of replacing our products more complicated and more costly. As a result, these challenges has made the process of catching up with other parties slower than expected. Despite all above-mentioned concerns, as our delegation believes that the proposed amendments are along with the goals of the Convention and the spirit of cooperation, we are ready to share our deliberations on the amendment in the contact group and take a constructive step forward together. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Iran. So as I mentioned, we need to stop now for the moment, but before we adjourn the morning plenary, I would like to invite you all to room A on the ground floor to attend a special COP5 event, Minamata Convention, a decade of global commitment to make mercury history, co-organized between the Secretariat and the Geneva Environment Network. This interactive event will feature diverse voices, including representatives from parties, NGOs, financial mechanisms, indigenous people, and artists engaged in environmental causes, and who will be invited to reflect on what the convention means to them. So with this, and with the invitation, I just forwarded to you I adjourn the morning session and see you all back. And before that, maybe I think it's okay. So have a nice lunch and a lunch break.